love it that we're talking to doctors and they're saying, I'm ending my day and I have more energy than I started. And I love it. And it's great. And we feel like we're doing good in the world. And there are great benefits. So go for it. I think it's amazing.
Hi, guys, and welcome to the House Call Vet Cafe podcast. I'm Dr. Eve Harrison. I'm a full-time integrative concierge house call veterinarian in Los Angeles, and I help other vets to build their unique mobile practices on their terms. This podcast is for and by house call and mobile veterinarians, so it is meant to give our community a platform to connect, to share our stories, to lift each other up, and to support each other. Most of us work solo as lone wolves, right? So for me, it's been really powerful to be able to physically hear the voices of my colleagues from all over the world and to get a chance to feel that we truly are part of a community of very real other human beings who get it. While you may be alone in that little bubble of your own vehicle when you're on the road seeing patients, I welcome you to join our community by tuning into our own podcast when you're on your way to your next house call. Whether you're a super experienced house call vet with 30 years of experience, you're a brand new prospective house call vet just looking to get started, or you're house call curious, there will be something for you in this podcast. Each episode, you will hear interviews from other mobile veterinarians just like yourself who are doing unique and innovative things, vets who are sharing their stories, their struggles and challenges, and you can also look forward to hearing valuable information and perspectives from specialists and experts outside of our micro niche. And finally, if becoming a house call veterinarian is something that you've been thinking about exploring, or you're looking for some extra support getting your own mobile practice to feel more profitable and sustainable for you, check out the information in the show notes about my course and our above and beyond supportive private community for members only, plus our monthly group coaching sessions within the House Call Vet Academy. You can also check out my free public Facebook group, which is also called the House Call Vet Cafe, the same name as this podcast, and which is a warm and cozy community for mobile vets to support each other in professional and personal development, in creative entrepreneurship, and in friendship. So thank you guys for spending time with me today. Let's dive into the episode. Hey everyone, we have a really cool episode coming out for you guys. We have another dynamic duo to interview, and these are the guys from Kumba. So I'm really excited to introduce these two guys to you and to tell you more about Kumba. And this is going to be a really complex and interesting conversation. So I'm really excited for this one. So without further ado, let's introduce first Eyal Zukovsky, the CEO and co-founder of Kumba. Eyal lives in Israel with his wife, their 2 kids, and another on the way. Congratulations. I didn't know that. Oh my God.
Yep.
He's also a proud dad to Bella, a half border collie and Belgian shepherd. With several years of experience in the Israeli high-tech ecosystem, he's worked in various roles across the different companies. When COVID-19 started, Eyal founded Kumba, a scheduling and routing tool for mobile vets. I would like to say it's one of a kind. Very, very cool. And then we also have Dr. Barr Hadar with us, who is the co-founder and chief veterinary officer at Kumba. And he was previously had an end-of-life and GP in-home care practice out of his car in Hawaii. And Dr. Barr is currently actively engaged in the intersection of technology and veterinary medicine. He's also an epidemiology PhD candidate at the Ontario Veterinary College and part of a unique research lab that focuses on health informatics, digital health, and emerging technologies in animal healthcare. So welcome, Eyal and Barr. It's awesome to have you guys. We've been in touch for several years now, and I'm really excited to have you guys on the show and to talk about all the subjects that we're about to talk about. It's going to get juicy. It's going to get interesting. And I wanted to kind of open the conversation by asking you guys, what are your favorite snacks to eat in the car?
Well, I just want to say thanks for having us. It's great to be here. Let's see. I guess for me, it'd probably have to be some fruit. So we have a bunch of good fruit, right? So it's going to be the mangoes, the pineapples, the grapes. I mean, we have a whole bunch of options. So definitely something like that. Good, refreshing, cold. Yeah.
Awesome. Is that what you eat in the car when you were doing house calls? Or were you not a snacker? You did snack in the car?
No, I would bring, for sure. Because as everybody knows, it's like you eat when you have time, right? So, and things kind of get busy, right? So, hopefully you can fit in lunch, but if not, you got to have the snacks ready. So, yeah, definitely would have that. And of course, all the other usual stuff, the granola bars and all the other healthy snacks as well, right? But kind of a combination of the fruit, sweet stuff, and then the salty granola bar stuff.
Excellent answer. How
Yeah.
about you? Oh,
Yeah, for those of you who don't know Barr, after living with him in different apartments across the US, I think he's eating, I think, the most healthiest answer there because, we're actually, I think, similar in a way, respecting like our body, what we eat. So I'd probably go with either granola and yogurt, probably something on the way. If there's like traffic, like an hour plus traffic to the office. So that would probably what I would go with. Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah, those
Yep.
are classic answers. I have not had anyone mention the tropical fruits in Hawaii before. That's pretty cool. Love it.
Yeah.
Definitely love our fruit.
Amazing. So can you tell me a little bit about how you guys got involved in the house call world and with each other? Like, I know that you guys met in Israel on an ambulance when you were doing ENT work together. And I imagine that there's some sparks to get involved in the house call vet world for you, Eyal, and Barr. I know you already were doing mobile work. Can you guys tell me a little bit about the sort of like pathogenesis of the formation? How did it all start?
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I guess I can say so. This is after my undergrad, before I was applying to vet school. So I took a year off, and for half a year I was in Israel working as like a volunteer EMT. And so Eyal was a paramedic and driver in the area that I was staying in. And so we had a bunch of shifts together. So we had a bunch of overnight shifts, a bunch of calls together, and so we would go out and chat, talk. So we became friends. And then I would come back there, he knew my plan of going to vet school and all that. We stayed in touch over the years, and then he reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I started this house call company in Israel. What do you think about it?" And so, we kind of kept in touch. He goes, "How, are you a vet now?" By then, I finished vet school, so I was a veterinarian working back here in Hawaii. And yeah, and then he was like, "What do you think about this idea? And what do you think about bringing it to the US?" So I was like, "This is perfect. I'm doing mobile house call stuff. I'm doing veterinary stuff. I'm researching various technologies. And part of that, the PhD program that's for researches mobile technologies and digital health and all that stuff. So it fit really well. And I said, perfect. I think this is a great idea. Let's see what we can do with it. Matt, do you have anything to add?
Yeah. Yeah. I think in a startup, usually I don't really believe kind of in luck. And, you need to base it on data and experiments, A/B testing, and, in general, try and put yourself where you want to be. And, luck is always good, always helpful. I think that when talking about team members, that has the kind of luck ingredient into it more than other aspects. And I think it's pretty crazy that, we've met, I think about 12 years before even thinking about Kumba. And what happened is here, and when we were, as you've mentioned, Eve, we've adopted Bella, and we lived in Tel Aviv, and we had our first son was born, and, schedule became more tight. And, going to the clinic just became like a hustle. You need to go there for vaccines. In Israel, you do it every few months. And this whole thing started when just, reaching out to a mobile vet who just started his business as an owner. Long story short, I just invited him and he started his business. I wrote it on the Facebook group of the neighborhood. And then we just had like 8-9 people who wanted it in the same window. And it was fantastic for everyone. And then we did like a bunch of pilots in Tel Aviv. And then I reached out to Barr and said, hey, and it was interesting because my birthday was in November. So he reached out, he said, hey, happy birthday. And I said, hey, Barr, where can I find someone who can help partner who is a vet in the US? And then it was just like pretty crazy that things turned out the way they did. And, enjoying the ride. That's also, eventually if it goes well or not, or anyway, you have like a good team. And as I told you in our last conversation, I think that we discovered that Kumba is a roller coaster in Tampa. And that's a good name for a startup. Yeah. We had a different idea like Kumbaya, people. Anyway, we had a different thing in mind, but naming your startup, there's a roller coaster named Kumba, then it's not a good indication.
No.
It's a roller coaster as is anyway. That's how Barr and I, then we flew to Chicago to have some pilots, and then that's how it evolved.
That's amazing. I had no idea that, but I was wondering like where Kumba came from. I know that in general, the recommendation of like trademark attorneys is that you have a name that's like really kind of almost a unique creative name that nobody can really copy it. So I thought maybe it was one of these things that was just like really, it's very original other than the roller coaster.
Yeah.
but I didn't realize I'm like Kumbaya. That's actually really, really cool. That's cool. I'm curious. So you took Kumbaya and just shortened it. Like I'm really curious about the naming. Like where did that name come from for you guys?
Yeah, sure. There's not Swahili, but another language, an African language that it says home, that it means home, Kumba. And we had in mind like a Kumba as Kumbaya, meaning part of the system today. And what we were thinking about doing is helping shape the supply and the demand. So now you're going into a specific neighborhood and you have like a bunch of pet owners who are in a way helping the mobile vet coming to the neighborhood. They're all in a way agreeing to be home or to kind of, they don't necessarily know about one another, but it's like a kumbaya of the neighborhood. And we tested it out in Chicago and asked people, and they said, we like it. And Bar, anything else to comment on the name?
Yeah. Just it kind of brings those different ideas to it. It sounds softer and warmer. So I think it has those ideas of being home and being a family and being like together in community, which is, part of our vision with everything. So
Yeah. I think today, Eve, honestly, it's if someone would ask for my advice, I would say go with, when you're starting your company, go with something that everyone just understands, like Dave's Plumbing Services, and then rebrand when you need to. But it's just like, it's great. It's catchy. We liked it. It sounds great. We love the name, but people don't know what it is when they hear it for the first time. So if someone's starting their business, I would go with a very simple name. And once you grow and scale, then you can just rebrand. And I would go with that. Yeah. Today, I can say that.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I think that's actually very, very good advice. That is the advice that I give to my students, like participants in my training. That's exactly the advice I give. And it is contradictory to the advice I've gotten from trademark attorneys. I'm like, no, the thing is like, you need people to know what it is. But the thing is also like, and I love how you said you can kind of build and then rebrand once you have the following. I think that's a really, really great advice. And I also think that like the origin story of the name of your business is really beautiful. I didn't know that. There's a lot of meaning behind it and like double meaning. And I think that's really, really special. And it speaks to the nature of the goal and the sort of like the brand vision, which is unity. It's unity, it's togetherness, it's warmth. And I think that's really, really beautiful and sincere. So I like the name.
thanks, Dave. Thanks.
Their name. It's the wrong word for their brand. They're the ones who are best.
Not exactly. Come on. What are they getting there? Yeah.
But I mean, you can always rebrand, kind of as you mentioned, like rebranding is always possible.
Absolutely.
And I talk to my students about that as well. There's also ways with your tagline to make it clear what you do. And this is so fascinating that we're talking about it on a meta level. You know, like you're serving house call vets, but we're also talking to house call vets who are building their own business and like learning in their own ways too. So this is really, really cool. And thank you for your transparency in that kind of thought process. And like already we're getting kind of like lessons learned from you guys. So that's wonderful. Thank you for that. Can you guys tell me a little bit about what Kumba does and how exactly it helps house call vets to do what they do and to remain independent?
Like, I guess I'll just start off with what the problem was, and then y'all can kind of go into the solution. But so even as I was working in a clinic, and then just like many other vets out there, was like, okay, is there something else I can do? So I started my own mobile, I'm more house call operation. I was like, let me just open it up to friends and family. And it was starting to grow and grow. I didn't do any marketing. It was just organically growing. And then it started getting to the point here on island, it's not, I am limited in I guess my working area. So can't go too far, but still like getting calls here, trying to organize it. And it's all like kind of in my head, right? Where am I going to be? What part of the island am I going to be in different areas? And then bouncing back and forth, trying to organize, can I do online calls? If I'm in an appointment, I didn't have any, obviously, online scheduling. I was just using a Word document from a notes and kind of keeping it real basic. And so we're looking for a solution that can help organize it into a more efficient system. So clustering, is there a way that we can cluster the appointments? Is there a way we can kind of have primary clients schedule online? So I don't always have to be available on the phone, or, I don't have to have an assistant. And so that's kind of where we're hoping Kumba can kind of help you grow and start, right? You're like, how do I keep it efficient and not just bounce around as I start to grow, right? I had to kind of actually keep mine from growing because it was getting too big and I just didn't keep everything organized. So and then that's when I jumped off into doing other things. But I'll let Eyal kind of explain how our system helps do that. But that's kind of, the idea of like, how can we help you grow and start the business without being like, shoot, what am I going to do with all this operation efficiency issues? So
I think what Barr is saying is what we used to call burnout 2.0. So you experience it in the clinic, and then you start getting calls from all over, and then you experience burnout 2.0 because the demand is super high for in-home care. And then we just saw mobile clinics just driving from one side of the city to the other. And eventually they just, they give up. Not all of them, but it's hard for them to kind of spend a lot of time on the road. And it's a pain point, I'd say that. Yeah. So what Kumba is trying to do is, going to some technical, but we're kind of integrating to the practice management software and kind of an AI scheduling layer on top of the practice management software. And then there is a lot of interesting data. So who are your customers? When are they used to scheduling appointments? Who is the kind of a client that likes to chat? And then if you think about it, you can really try to foresee the demand. So if there is like an area where there are 50 clients who are supposed to get vaccines in the next 2 months, if there's a system that is sending out more intelligent reminders and trying to cluster it in a more efficient way, then you can just see it as kind of a pop-up clinics in different neighborhoods, and then you're within walking distance. So in Tel Aviv, we got to efficiency levels that were even very close to brick and mortar for those who wanted it.
we had vets on scooters. They'll go around on scooters within the city, and they were, it was him. Yeah.
I'm going to just interrupt and say, I think most house call vets don't want that level of efficiency because we don't want to be
Right. I know. Exactly.
I love that you said for those who want it, that it's an option.
Right.
Not
Absolutely.
5 million appointments a day.
Right.
By all means, go for it.
Exactly. And that's kind of our vision too. It's like you can either see more appointments or you can just get off work early and see less and just, you can, it's how you want to structure your day. Yeah.
And then also add my 2 cents in, just for the record, I'm very, very mixed in my opinions about AI, but I think it's here. We're not getting rid of it. It's like I'm against the internet. Like there's no point in saying that, right? I can't be against AI.
Yeah.
And there are times that AI are really going to help us. And I think this is one of those times that is a really clean use of AI and that I feel comfortable. Not every use of AI, but this one.
I agree that it's changing the world. And, you have the ones who create the change, those who adapt, and those who don't see it coming. I think the veterinary profession is a good place to be, honestly, with all the AI revolution.
We have a lot to benefit from the AI revolution. I mean, I think we always see a learning curve, but I think there's a lot of room for and a lot of areas where we can benefit. So I think it's exciting overall.
Also, they're not going to be replaced with AI, which is a huge problem, I think, in the world that we're going to deal with. But anyway, so that's kind of the core of what we're aiming to do, make it more efficient. And I love it that we're talking to doctors and they're saying, I'm ending my day and I have more energy than I started. And I love it. And it's great. And we feel like we're doing good in the world. And there are great benefits. So go for it. I think it's amazing. And obviously, we're here to try and help you guys.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I wanted to, I'm not sure which question to ask next. I wanted to know a little bit more about mobile vets in Israel and how that looks. And now you've kind of got a global perspective now on what house call practice looks like in Israel, what it looks like in the US, different parts of the US. I'm curious what house call practice looks like in Israel, since that's where you started your roots. And also, I just want to hear more about Kumba. Like, it's such a unique thing. I haven't seen any sort of technology that quite automates the routing service, like the routing for veterinarians.
Yeah. So I think it started. So we had as I said, this was a roller coaster. We've tried everything. We've made a lot of mistakes. Anyway, it started from kind of the story I was telling about Bella, and it was pretty amazing. It was an amazing experience for the owner, for the animals, right? And the feeling I got was that, the doctors were also excited about it because they really liked it. And I went on, I think, more than 1,000 households myself to kind of learn how it goes. And so I was talking to veterinarians with mobile practice and understanding what are their, pain points working in the clinic. And, pet owners, they're not familiar with what's going on in the veterinary workspace environment. And then it was just like, this is great. This is amazing. Like there is something here. There's like win-win-win situation for the owner, for the doctor, for the pets. So in Israel, and even in the pilot in the US, we said at first, we're going to build kind of a platform that doctors could just, we'll be handling the marketing and everything, and we'll be responsible for the client, and they'll just be kind of a managed marketplace that they can just say, okay, I want to work these hours, and then we'll just make sure that they have their route. So that's what happened at first in Israel. And I can talk about Israel in general. I think it's very similar to what's going on in the rest of the world, honestly. And it was going very well. Like Israel is a small country, but still, like very fast, we found veterinarians who wanted to work with this. I think almost Israel kind of south to north, almost. So we grew very fast in Israel. But the thing was, a few things happened where veterinarians were feeling that the customers were their customers. Although, in a way, they weren't their customers. They were just using a platform. And pet owners were also considering the vets like, that's my primary caregiver. He's not a Kumba vet. I have Dana, and she's my vet. And we still didn't completely realize that. When Barr and I went to Austin, we had in mind, okay, let's start in Texas, where there are a lot of big cities. And then we just spoke to kind of a breakfast club for mobile vets in Austin. And they said the core of the product, kind of the brains of it, how it uses AI or other things to make the scheduling and routing more efficient. I like that. And then after that visit, we spent a few months in Austin. We said, this is what we should do. Like, we shouldn't have Kumba in the front. Kumba should allow independent mobile practices to grow their business by themselves.
Yeah.
And this is a win-win for us. And yeah. No, but honestly, this is also kind of a win-win for us, because now we have like 24 clinics throughout the US and Canada. And this would never have happened if we were trying to kind of scale this ourselves with marketing and customer support. And it's not the natural solution. So for us, we just said, okay, this is great. Like, this is the pivot that we need to do.
Each veterinary house call mobile business is so different and so unique. So we're like, how can we now empower each clinic to grow and be more efficient, be more optimized, in their unique situation? That's kind of how we.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of the journey we've done the last year and a half. I think we've reached out to you very early once we said this is, and I'm not just saying this because of the podcast, but we just felt like this is right. This means that we're right, that someone else is thinking the same thing. Not that we're right, but we also felt like this is more natural and more the direction we should go to. So a lot of the things that we've built for us as a platform, we needed to change that and kind of rewrap the brain, the product, to make it more customizable for independent clinics. We do have kind of a vision as well to kind of allow clinics to refer customers between themselves. But we also, we're looking at the world from kind of that mobile vet point of view. And we do think that we want to help grow the accessibility and the capacity of in-home care. And that's basically what we're trying to do at the moment, because, talking about this for a few minutes, but that's the feeling I got. Like, it's great. Why not everyone are doing, like, the doctors like it, the owners like it, the pets enjoy it. Like, why is it not happening everywhere? And the reason is because it's just too complicated for some to just get started, my opinion. And they think that they can't see a lot of customers and grow. And if you solve that pain point and show them that you can automate the scheduling process, even if you need to consider the chief complaint and your availability and who's the client and who's the pet, then if you can really automate parts of that flow, then more doctors would choose this path.
Yeah, this is absolutely fascinating. And Barr, I want to give you a chance to speak on this as well. Of course, I can't hold my tongue. I have so much to reply back, and I wanted to say I've really enjoyed watching your pivoting and the evolution of your business, because I do remember early on in our conversations that this was a shift happening where you were learning and growing. From Tel Aviv to Austin, you got the same message that independent vets want to remain independent. They want to be in the front. They want to own their clients. They want to run the show. We're doctors. We have an ego to maintain, just kidding. But the thing that I really love about how you've grown is you listened. You really listened to people all over the world and what they wanted. And instead of imposing, it'll be better when we handle the back end, we handle your marketing, we own your clients. Like, there are companies that still do that and they force it and they try and use that in their marketing to get people to work with them. But you listened. And I think that's a really beautiful quality in an entrepreneurial paradigm. You listen, you pivot. That's not pivot just to make more money. Like, of course, we have to do that as entrepreneurs. We all have to pivot so that our income is sustainable, that we're profitable. The whole point of business is right? We earn a living. But you listen to what your clients wanted and you did that very gracefully. And it was slow, but you've done it slow and steady. And I really have admired that process that I've observed you guys go through. And I also, again, want to really honor and commend you for your transparency and sharing that process and that learning curve and honoring the actual will of the independent vets who you're serving. Like, you're listening. That's what they're saying and you're listening. And I think that's very rare. And that's why I can get behind what you do. And I really respect what you're doing too.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Lau. I'm the founder of O3 Vets. One of the challenges of being a mobile veterinarian is that you have a more limited toolbox to draw from. At O3 Vets, we put a powerful tool into your toolbox by providing ozone therapy equipment designed specifically to help the mobile veterinarian treat those tough cases. Ozone works as a redox molecule to help decrease inflammation and improve cellular communication. This has an incredibly beneficial effect on a variety of conditions, as demonstrated through the hundreds of scientific studies available. If you would like to join thousands of veterinarians who've experienced the power of ozone therapy, you can visit o3vets.com or call us at 517-925-8148. If you mention this ad, you'll get access to our online training course with the purchase of your ozone equipment.
So on that note, Barr, I wanted to kind of hand it back over to you.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I just one comment about the Israel thing. So Israel, even, I know everyone here asks, about revenue and income of veterinarians. In Israel, the average income for veterinarians is even lower than in the US. And cost of living is the same or higher, right? So we've had actually many vets that were just like, oh, wow, I can just, when they tried out Kumba in the beginning, they're like, wow, I can make, some amount of revenue doing some mobile house calls, which is way more intimate. And, in a few days, which is, how much it takes me about 2 weeks or a month to make that same amount of revenue in a clinic. They still have the same burnout. They have the same, work-life balance issues, right, as everyone else. And what was needed was we actually had some vets that got out of clinical practice. It's not uncommon, as we all know. And then when they saw Kumba, they said, this is a nice way to get back in, to, get my hand wet again, start seeing clients again, get my hand on patients. And so it's really neat just to see them be like, you know what, now I'm going to go back into clinical practice. And there's a way to do this that where I don't have to get burnt out, where I have more flexibility, and just to see them being empowered again and see them be like passionate about doing more clinical practice in a way that they want to do is kind of neat. A lot of them are like, how do I start? And you work with a lot of new clinics being made. And so a lot of them are like, how do I start it? Gary, where do I go? And then just kind of being like, oh, I have a way to have people that have done it. I have a way to do it that's easier, kind of get my hands wet and kind of ease into it and grow slowly. But it's kind of nice to see, okay, yeah, another way to get back in and do it in a more sustainable way. Right. So, yeah.
I also think one comment about what you said, Eve, I think, on kind of entrepreneurial side, you need to fall in love with a problem, not fall in love with a solution. And I think what we're doing from day one and what we're doing today, we're still trying to solve the same problem. So we're not attached to any solution. We're still trying to make healthcare more accessible. And we think that it's good for owners, doctors, even for brick and mortar clinics, honestly, and for the animals. And we're just doing it in a different way that we think is the right way. But what we're trying to solve, it didn't change. So fall in love with the problem, not just a solution. And that's why it's easier to shift directions and find different solutions on that journey.
That's really interesting. I've never thought about it that way. And I think that allows you to remain flexible and dedicated to the goal, right? I never thought about that's interesting. I sort of have almost like a negative response to falling in love with a problem, but I think under it is actually a commitment to
Right.
a solution, but not an attachment to the solution that you think it is how I need to reframe it in my mind so that it's more accessible. But it's a very, very interesting perspective. And to some people, it may be that language speaks to them, like falling in love with the problem, get obsessed with solving this problem, and
Get in love with the challenge. Yeah.
and be willing to shift. If the solution you thought it was isn't, then you move and you change and you shift. And that's so very relevant for house call veterinarians who their clients may not want what they think they want. Like I have, for one example, one very recent example, it's been on my mind is there are some vets who like to write really long discharge instructions or really long summary, and they feel that is good veterinary medicine, but maybe the client doesn't want that. Maybe that's not what the client needs or wants.
Sure.
Like we think we're solving a communication issue by writing it out. And I'm not a person that should be bitching about this because I'm a person who's very long-winded in my writing. Like that's how I want to communicate, but I've learned
Right.
like,
And that's what you want from your doctor, right?
yeah, like my clients don't want that. So I've never tried to force this solution onto my clients. And when I did, I learned it wasn't right for them and I shifted, and that was a win for me. So it's a similar, like the problem still remains. How do we communicate effectively with clients, get the information they need about their animals and feel heard, supported, and having all their questions answered? It's not this long discharge instructions for some.
Not for everyone. For some,
Certain brain types, they need and want that. Majority of clients I've found in my house call practice, I've seen a majority don't want that. So yeah, just a little example from my world of that. But that's such a very, very interesting concept. Eyal, thank you for that.
Barr, do you see any kind of major differences between geographic? Like we've seen in Australia, we've seen US, we've seen Israel.
Yeah, honestly, you have the minor things here and there different, but for the most part, same issues. We're hearing the same issues with veterinarians, finding, the burnout, the work-life balance, the flexibility. I'm looking for something that I can be more sustainable and that I can build my own. Same kind of issues. Dealing with client communication, routing, scheduling, all that stuff. Yeah.
I think we've seen some cultural differences between, the pet owners. Like in Israel, I think, right, we had house calls until 10:30 p.m.
That's true. Timing stuff, yeah. You do get, Israel is more, yeah.
And people love
later culture in general, though. They have a later culture.
Yeah, like they had the vet join for dinner and blah, blah.
That's
and
true.
it was just like, 8:30, come in, 9, the later, the better. And when we came to the U.S., it was just, for Barr, it was natural. And in the U.S., it's different. At least from my experience until today, it's like 6 p.m. is like the latest. And in Israel, they had veterinarians who were working. They were even starting to work around 6 p.m. And the thing is that owners loved it, right? And they even asked for it. Yeah.
That's fascinating. To be very honest, I work in the same way. I'm a night owl. And like most days, unless I have no choice, I wake up at like 10 or 11 a.m. I go to sleep. Never, definitely for and like clients that are the same. I definitely have dinner at some clients' homes. Like my last end of the day, they'll be like a glass of wine, or they'll be like, "Have you eaten?" And I'm like, "I've been eating all day in my car, but you can still feed me dinner. I will."
Yeah, I'll take it. Why not? Yeah, exactly.
It's very interesting, and like to me, that's a quality of house call practice in general that I think is really beautiful. Like. That's my chronotype. My chronotype is, I think they call it a bear or something. There's 4 chronotypes. It's very, very interesting. There's a book. I'm blanking on the name of it, but there's like dolphin and bear, or you're a night owl, or do you wake up early? Like there's all these like sort of sleeping patterns and how you move through the day, preferred timing. And that house call practice in general allows that organic, natural chronotype to express itself and the clients that are on the same chronotype with you. But it's very, very interesting that there's this cultural difference. Like maybe I should be practicing in Israel. I don't know. That's really very cool.
Yeah.
That's absolutely fascinating. And that's the kind of like cultural difference that I'm really, really interested in. And I also had one more question before we do a little bit of like a hard pivot. We're going to shift the conversation to get a little bit more serious in just a minute. But before we do that, I mean, the conversation's been serious, but so before we move on, I'm curious in Israel, what is the cultural relationship to animals? Like here in the US, there's this sort of new generational thing that's like our animals are our children, or we love them and we provide the best care we can. It's not that way everywhere. Do you think there are elements of that in Israel? Is it similar in that way? Are people more obsessed with their animals there? What's it like?
Bar, what do you think?
I think super obsessed with animals. Like in Tel Aviv, you go to like a
Yeah.
restaurant, they'll give water to the dog before they ask you what you want. You know, like
Yeah.
you can take pets everywhere. It's super, super animal friendly.
I have an interesting story. When I adopted Bella, we used to work at WeWork, and I took her to work every day. And one time I met my wife for dinner in a restaurant in Tel Aviv, and it was Indian restaurant, but it was pretty fancy. So I told her, let's sit outside because we're with Bella. Like, I don't want to go in and, bother people with the dog when they eat. And then the owner came out and said, why are you guys sitting outside? And I told him, no, I'm with a dog. I don't want to sit inside. And I told him might bother other people. And then he just said, so they can just leave. And then he said, I insist you come in. And this was this moment that I understood this city is not, this is like crazy. Tel Aviv, I think it's one of the most dog friendly cities in the world. I think Austin was similar.
Boy, yeah. We saw some, on the malls and stuff. Here in Hawaii, we see, everyone, you got pets everywhere on the beach, restaurants everywhere. So it's luckily we live in areas for sure that are definitely very animal friendly, very pet friendly.
Yeah, but obviously it's not all over Israel. Tel Aviv is very international, very universal. So you have town cities that they're not used to having a dog in a restaurant and all that. So I think it's kind of a normal distribution, same as everywhere around the world. But yeah, I think it's growing similar to other places as well. Ownership. Yeah.
That's really, really awesome.
Yeah.
I just want to say I've been to Israel twice, and Tel Aviv is one of my favorite places in the world. So diverse, so feels so safe and just like beautiful, just like absolutely beautiful. And many other places in Israel have had that same feeling to me, and just like a warmth in some of these places. And I love that it extends to animals. Like, I didn't have any experience of the animals. This was before I was a vet, that I was in Israel, but I did love all of the cats there. The cats are incredible.
Yeah.
Girl, oh my God.
Yeah.
They're so cute. I took so many selfies with the Israeli cat.
Street cats. Like yeah.
That's
When you go to
lot of
Tel
them.
Aviv University, you have like those buildings named on people who donated the building. So you have a bunch of cats in every building, and you go to the lectures and you have a cat sitting just next to you, and you don't take them out. They're just there for years, and it's crazy. You can just it was like 10, 15 years ago. You sit down for a lecture, you have a bunch of cats sitting down with you on the chair. So the street cats, I think all over Israel you got those spots where people feed them. It's just good weather. So they just thrive.
Beautiful.
right.
Yeah.
Amazing. So, okay, so here's the hard pivot. If you guys feel comfortable to speak on this a little bit, we can't really talk about Israel right now without, understanding that we're looking at a war. And I'm curious if you guys might like to be able to freestyle, just like, what's it like in Israel right now during the war? And also just a trigger warning for anyone that's listening. I cried when Eyal told me this in our last conversation, and I might still. But I know your aunt and uncle were killed on October 7th.
Yeah.
On their kibbutz, and their bodies are still in Gaza. Would you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think as we just had a casual talk a few months ago.
Casual.
Yeah, we're emotionally
Just process
So-
trauma in a different way. I'll just say that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so the thing about October 7th for us, I think as a company first, Barr and I were in San Francisco like 3 days before, and everything was going very well. We just, you're working, you're pivoting, you're making those adjustments, and you start seeing like those fruits of the hard work. And then I think I got back to Tel Aviv, he got back to Hawaii, I think October 4th, something like that. I know if everyone are aware, but on October 7th, there was kind of a attack on the south towns, on Kibbutz Simon, next to the border with Gaza. And my aunt lived there, my mom's sister, and my kids and I were actually supposed to spend the weekend there. But then when I was in San Francisco with Barr, my wife called and said, we should go to Eilat. Eilat is like the southest city in Israel, similar to Vegas in a way. And, I don't usually go there. And then I said, why should we go there? It's just, it's touristic and stuff. but she insisted. And we were in meetings and I said, you know what, whatever you choose, let's do it, like book a hotel. And then we went to El Lodge for that weekend. And yeah, October 7th, like 7 a.m., we have kind of a WhatsApp group with all the family. Messages started floating in. And then we didn't really understand what was going on.
Yeah.
And yeah, and my aunt, my uncle, he died in her arms. And then she went out to hide for a few hours. So we still managed to text her for a few hours. But then, yeah, it just got disconnected. And his body is still in Gaza. And I have 4 cousins there who have experienced, I think, very traumatic experience with children in safe rooms. I think I told you now, in Israel, you have a safe room in every apartment, which is for us pretty crazy. For us, it's natural. But talking to people from abroad, it's like, wait, why do you have a safe room in every apartment? And, when you start thinking about it, it is a bit, not ordinary. So October 7th was a shocking experience for us. I was in Israel, the military service is mandatory. So I was in the military for almost 8 years, and I got called to reserve duty for a few months. Honestly, last 3 months, I think Barr can kind of testify, was kind of disconnected with everything, just focusing on this. And I think also all of the clinics working with us, I sent an email like on October 8th explaining the situation. And yeah, what's now in Israel, I don't know exactly where it's going, but it's mostly sad, I think, for everyone, both sides.
Worst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we can analyze it, we can discuss, right, what, driving this whole thing. But it's like, my opinions. I mean, you have Hamas, you have other movements around the world. I think this whole thing started because, my opinion, Israel and Saudi Arabia were getting those kind of normalizing the relationship. And you had peace agreements with other countries in the last few months, last year plus. And I think this whole thing is trying to kind of stop it. You got extremists on both sides that are trying to pull people from the middle. And they're actually successful. With October 7th, they were successful because people who are believing in good, it's harder for them to continue doing this. I told you, right, that they went out in those towns, kibbutzim next to the border. They had people who were human rights activists, and they were actually taking people from Gaza to Israeli hospitals on a daily basis. And even these people, it's hard to kind of remember that people are good in essence. And so it's eventually education is the solution to all of this, right? It's just going back to a startup because it's a good example, right? A startup should not educate the market because it's too expensive, but countries should. So this is a problem for the world to kind of go in and spend a lot of money on education because there is no other solution to that problem. I was in Gaza. I told you the educational books. You're educating the Hamas civil arm, also Hezbollah up north. Their civil arm is stronger than their, in a way, military arm because it takes people from when they are 2, puts them in kindergarten, then schools, and then takes them up to when they're 18 in their educational system. And then not their only, but, I wouldn't say natural, but it is part of their path to become part of those organizations. But it's only because they're offering free education and meals and stuff. So until we get a different educational system, alternative one, then this is going to last for, if you really want a solution, that's the only solution, right, to really solve the problem.
Thank you for that, Eyal. So very, very complex. And there's miseducation on all quote unquote sides. And I love that you said this is not about sides, it's about humanity. And even as someone who's lost so much in your family, that you have such a, honestly, humanitarian and realistic perspective is really beautiful to see. And I think education is everything of extremists on all sides.
Right.
Thank you for sharing this very, very sensitive content right now. And I know this is definitely veering off my usual subject material on this podcast. I know it's triggering to many. I know a lot of people won't like it. And I think, as I kind of always say, that the people that do like what you're doing, the people that relate, the people that can see eye to eye with you will find you, and the people that don't like it will fall away, and that's for the good of everyone. I think everyone deserves a voice here, and so thank you for sharing yours, Eyal. And
Sure.
I'd love to hear kind of how things are going in Israel that you've observed, given that your company and everything you're doing heavily involves Israeli people, Israel itself, and how are things going in light of the war?
Yeah, it was obviously, like Eyal said, super, super tough period obviously see him, my business partners, to see my dad's side of the families, all from Israel, to see all of them just super involved and super distracted and super sad and depressed about the whole situation. So yeah, so definitely, it was super tough period, just trying to keep things going, just chug along forward and just hope that in the future things will start to settle down. And hope that eventually it will lead to some sort of better outcome, right? For both sides, for people within Gaza, Palestinians, for Israelis, for everyone involved, and just trying not to lose sight, like you said, of humanity, right? And trying not to take sides, being able to get in mind to know that there's not one right, one wrong. There's a bunch of things involved. It's super complex, and there may not be one easy answer, one easy direction to pull us out of this, but hopefully eventually there'll be mistakes and stuff, but hopefully eventually we'll get to somewhere where there's a positive outcome for everybody. Yeah. So, just trying to stay as positive and as focused as you can in the different visions of your life. So personally, humanity within the company, just pushing forward, focusing on how much we can help others and in our vision within the company and within, we hope to achieve. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for that nuanced perspective as well. And then, I just wanted to honor your aunt and uncle, and may their memories be a blessing. And also, I wanted to say the name, Doran Steinbrecher. She's a vet tech from Israel who is hostage right now, and we don't talk about her in the United States. Is anyone talking about her in Israel? I know that the conversation about the hostages is much more accepted in Israel, not so much here in the U.S.
Yeah, I think on a daily basis, there are protests and all the families of the hostages. And I think, all Israelis obviously right now we're engaged with this. And, this is just what people are talking about, getting the hostages back. So counting the days, counting the hours that they're there. Yeah, I think it's kind of the top issue that people in Israel are discussing. So yeah.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking, and it's just so, it's tough to see this. Yeah.
Yeah.
That the hostages never can.
Yeah. The suffering all around is quite heartbreaking. And thank you guys for discussing in such an open space and for kind of helping to bring some of these issues to spaces that may not have this conversation happening. I do think it's important. I think it involves our professional community in ways that we haven't been talking about. And so thank you again. This is a very, very meaningful conversation. And I wanted to wrap it up here on not such a grave subject. Are there any messages that you'd like to share with the veterinary community here in the U.S. or global? We have global listeners, either about Kumba, how you can help, advice you might have for staying sane during times like these, or how about you?
Yeah, no, kind of just echoing what you both were saying, but basically, now I think it's super exciting now. There's so many tools, we're just one of them. There's so many tools that can help you run your practice more efficiently, save on medical records and do all kinds of different things. And so many resources like your academy to start your own business that it's going to be easier and easier to start your business, run your business, and then do it more effectively too, right? And kind of help you with decision support systems, routing, do your records. There's so many different things to do that I think it's an exciting time in our profession, and to start a business and to be able to build your own clinic and your own practice how you want, right? And to have your flexibility, have it be in your vision. So I say, yeah, definitely go for it if you're looking to start one. And we hear only good things from the people that have been starting their clinics and want to help to grow. So super exciting time, I think.
Super exciting time. Yeah. So many resources that we have available for people starting their own independent house call practices and people who see you as an independent vet and understand what the issues are. So I encourage you guys to check out Kumba as a resource to support you. Can I ask you guys, how can people find out more about Kumba, or where can people find more information or out to you guys?
So the website Kumba, KUMBA.pet. We also have a .vet domain, but it's .pet. they can schedule a call, a demo. We're hopefully gonna make it so they won't even have to schedule a demo. We want to make it kind of zero touch. We understand like scheduling a demo with mobile practices is, they don't have time and you want to save them time. So it's kind of until they schedule the demo and you want to tell them schedule the demo, I'll make sure you have enough time. But so we want to skip that part, but meantime, it's still not explaining itself, I think, as good as we want it to. So just schedule a demo. There's my number, Barr's number. We're very responsive. We're also, I think, working very close with our clinic. We have kind of a WhatsApp group with each of them.
With your practices, like mobile clinic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So each clinic has like a WhatsApp group. Barr is there, the COO, the CTO, parts of the tech team is there. So, and we also have another startup. It's called 24/7 customer support, and everyone gets a good night's sleep. So Israel and Hawaii, with the different time zones, then we're giving kind of 24/7 coverage. So we're trying to be very responsive. Even if we get something during the night, Barr gets it. And, the tech team is also available. So yeah, I was saying that. Don't remember why. Just
basically, yes. Kumba.vet. Send us you can send us an email. Our email's on there. Shoot us an email. And yeah, we're happy to chat, regardless of even if it's just starting and you want some tips. We're here. We want to help in any way. Even if it's not with us, we're happy to help. We've talked to hundreds and hundreds of mobile vets by now. So we're always, happy to be a resource if we can help somehow.
Some kind of best practices on how people market themselves and how they do good things. So we're kind of a good base of knowledge as well, I think.
Yeah, fantastic. I guess I also haven't really told people that I also have 15-minute free consults if you want to book on my page too. So there's, between all of us, like actually quite a bit of free information going on. We're also available. So thank you for what you're doing for our community and for seeing us and being responsive to the needs of the community. And in closing up this episode, which I don't want to do because we have so much to talk about, like we touched on AI, we touched on the war, we touched on we touched on a lot of shit.
We can talk about this forever, so we love it.
Yeah, we can have another episode. Depending on this man, we're gonna have a follow-up episode.
Yeah, we very well might. So thank you guys for being here, and I wanted to give you a courtesy beverage since we're in the house called Vet Cafe. Can I take your order? What would you like to order in the cafe?
Oh, in the cafe. Let's see. I'll get a mocha latte, please.
You got it. All right.
Perfect. Thank you.
But you will.
Non-alcohol, right? No, okay. No.
Oh, you can have
probably
alcohol.
go with
Cafe. Oh, is it a bar?
Wine bar.
I just, you know what chai latte is?
Yeah.
So it's like tea with milk. So I just started this almost every evening, and it's perfect. Like chai latte with some honey. It's perfect. Really.
Amazing, guys. Thank you guys so much for being with me and having such a candid, open, and vulnerable conversation. And we will be sure to be continuing this conversation, whether it's on the podcast or beyond. And thank you, everyone, so much for listening. I know this was a difficult episode, a deep episode, and we touched on a lot of stuff. So thank you so much for staying with us, and we'll see you next.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks you for having us.
So I'm recording this post-episode reflection while I'm driving around in my car after recording this pretty long episode with Eyal and Dr. Barr, and I just kind of had some additional thoughts that I wanted to share about Israeli people and trauma responses and things like that. There's a concept called the Sabra. When you think about Israelis, the hummus company Sabra is named after this kind of phenomenon. It means like a prickly pear. And Israelis are known as Sabras because they're sort of like, almost like a little rough around the edges in the most superficial ways, like prickly, like the outside of the pear, but on the inside they're sweet and soft, kind. As a rule, of course, all humans are different from one another, no matter what culture or country they come from. But I just really find that metaphor of the Sabra to be really pretty accurate about a lot of Israelis that I know. And also, after we finished recording the episode, we talked a little bit, Eyal and Barr and I, about how maybe it's that Israelis kind of process and demonstrate their trauma in different ways. They often come off a little bit stoic, it seems, whereas in other cultures or other populations of
some people, their trauma is more demonstrative. I am a person that's pretty demonstrative when I'm traumatized, upset. I cry easily. But I don't know that a lot of Israelis are demonstrative in that way. It may be a cultural thing, it may be a trauma response, holding it in, a survival mechanism, this sort of stoicism. And I think that because of the stoicism, people don't necessarily understand the depth of the experience that Israeli people endure. And so I just thought I would add those thoughts after this episode, and I don't know, just see what you guys think. Well, anyway, I hope you found this episode to be helpful in terms of humanizing the other, and that you found either some inspiration or something that moved you, or that you found useful for your business. All right, we'll catch you in the next episode. Thanks again for listening.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the House Call Vet Cafe. If you enjoyed this episode, then hit the subscribe or follow button on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never have to miss an episode. This podcast is made specifically for you, so don't be shy if you'd like to reach out and let me know your thoughts on this episode. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook as the House Call Vet Academy, where I also share more valuable content. If you're interested in learning more about consulting for House Call Vets or the House Call Vet Academy online course and community, please click on the link in the show notes. Have an amazing rest of your day, and I can't wait for you to join us for our next episode of the House Call Vet Cafe.